You know all those websites and apps you use every single day? Ever stop and think about what it really takes to build them? Well, it's not magic, but it is a kind of blueprint. And today, we're going to deconstruct that blueprint piece by piece to see exactly how something goes from just an idea to the screen right in front of you. So, where do we even begin?
Well, let's just ask the big question right up front. What does it actually take to build a modern website? I'm talking about everything from a simple landing page all the way up to a huge online store. It just seems like this massive, complicated thing, right? And yeah, it can be, but like any big project, it all comes down to having the right plan. And that's exactly what we're going to find today.
And to figure this all out, we're going to do something kind of cool. We're actually going to look at the promotional page of a real web development company. See, by looking at how they sell their own services, we can basically reverse engineer their entire process. It's like they've laid out the whole blueprint for us. We just have to learn how to read it.
All right, let's crack open this blueprint. First up, we need to get the foundations right. Before anyone writes a single line of code, you gotta speak the language of web development. So first things first, what even is web development? The simplest way to think about it is this. It's where two worlds collide. You've got the visual design, everything you see and click on, and then you have the invisible code, the logic running behind the scenes that actually makes it all work.
Now here's a key thing to understand. Building a website isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It's really more like looking at a restaurant menu. You've got all these different options, and each one is designed for a very specific need. Let's take a quick look at what's on offer.
And wow, the possibilities are pretty much endless. We're talking custom web apps built exactly for a company's needs, huge e-commerce platforms, and even websites that have AI baked right into them. You can even build what are called SaaS products, that's software as a service. Think about tools you might use every day like Slack or Dropbox. Those are entire businesses that just exist online, and they're built using these exact same principles.
So to really see what I mean, let's compare two totally different kinds of websites. On one hand, you've got e-commerce. The whole goal is to drive sales, right? So it needs really complex stuff like secure payments, user accounts, and a system to manage inventory. But on the other hand, you have something like a static web app, which is more like a digital brochure. Its only job is to get information to you fast. So it's built to be simple, super secure, and load in a blank. The big takeaway here? The business goal determines everything about the technology.
Okay, so you know what you want to build. But how do you actually get from point A to point B? Well, this brings us to the recipe. The step-by-step process that takes a simple idea and turns it into a live product that real people can use.
Phase 1 is all about planning. And honestly, this is the most important part. You start with requirement discovery. Basically, what are we building, why are we building it, and who is it for? Then you move into UI/UX design. That's user interface and user experience. This is where designers create mock-ups and prototypes to figure out exactly how the site will look and feel. And finally, you have architecture planning. This is like designing the foundation and steel frame for a skyscraper before you ever pour any concrete. It has to be solid. Once that solid plan is in place, it's time for Phase 2, the actual build. This is where the developers finally get to write the code, both for the front end, which is what you see, and the back end, which is what makes it all work. This phase also involves plugging in other essential tools, like payment systems, and of course, testing, and more testing to make sure nothing breaks. And at last, Phase 3, going live. But it's not as simple as just flipping a switch. There's a final round of quality assurance, or QA, to squash any last-minute bugs. Then there's deployment, which is all about setting up the servers and pushing the code out to the world. And here's the crucial part. The job isn't done at launch, not even close. Ongoing maintenance, updates, and monitoring are absolutely essential to keep the site running smoothly and securely for the long haul.
Now, to actually build all this stuff, developers need tools. A whole digital toolbox full of them. So let's take a quick peek inside and see the main categories of tech they're using to get the job done.
First up, you've got the front end. These are the tools that build everything you actually see and interact with. Developers use languages like HTML to create the page's structure, CSS to make it look good with colors and fonts, and powerful frameworks like React to make it all interactive and feel alive.
Then, behind the curtain, you have the backend. This is the engine room. It's where all the heavy lifting happens. This is the world of powerful languages like Node.js and Python, which are really good at handling data, managing user accounts, and basically connecting all the dots to make the application run.
So where does all that information, like user profiles and product details, actually go? Well, it lives in the database. Just think of it like a super organized digital library. Databases with names like PostgreSQL and MongoDB
are basically the website's long-term memory, storing everything safely so it can be pulled up in an instant.
Okay, so that's the technical blueprint. We get it. But there's another layer to this whole thing that's just as important, the blueprint for building trust. I mean, creating a website is a huge investment of time and money, so how does a company prove they're the right partner for the job?
Well, one of the simplest and most powerful ways is just through raw experience. I mean, look at this number from our source. Over 2,500 projects delivered. That's not just a number on a page. That tells a story of thousands of problems solved and a really deep understanding of what actually works in the real world.
But numbers only tell you part of the story. Real trust comes from real results for real people. Take this quote from a CEO named Jason. He doesn't just say, hey, the code was good. He says the solution was good enough to present to investors. That's a huge business outcome, not just a technical one. That's what really matters.
So let's tie it all together. Trust is built on a few key pillars, right? You need proven expertise, which you can see from a big portfolio. You need solutions that can scale and grow with a business. You need a deep focus on the user's experience. And maybe most important of all, you need a business-first approach that's all about delivering real, measurable value, not just writing lines of code.
And that brings us to the end of our deconstruction. We've seen the menu of options, we've walked through the step-by-step recipe, and we've looked inside the toolbox. So the only real question left is this. Now that you've seen what a real blueprint looks like, what kind of plan does your next big idea need? Thanks for tuning in.